We've been talking about quadratics for a long time, obviously, but especially the past 3 days, just kind of reviewing everything we know about them. The one thing we didn't do a ton of last semester that we're going to now is converting quadratics, which you guys, we've talked about pretty much every day this week. But today is just going to be the big push. So you really, by the end of today, want to be able to say, I can have any of the three forms of quadratic, doesn't matter, and get it to a different form, or both of the other two forms that it's not. So you should be really comfortable going from one form to another no matter where you're at. So your warm-up, I'm going to skip that for right now. If you want to do it, the solutions are online in the notes, so you can go check it. It's a really just good, quick way to make sure you know what you're doing. That is stuff that'll be right off the quiz, so I do suggest doing it, but just for the video, I'm only going to do the notes. So your three forms are there, right? Standard form, vertex form, intercept form. The biggest thing you want to remember is that A is the same value no matter which form you use. It's just a really good checkpoint that as you're moving between forms, that you're getting the correct form and not making a mistake. And a big teller is if your A's are different, then something's wrong. So the first one says given f of x equals negative 3x squared plus 12x, or I'm sorry, yeah, plus 12x minus 8, you want to write the function in vertex form. So this is in standard form, so we're going from standard to vertex. So that means we want to complete the square. So standard to vertex, you always want to complete the square. Sorry, my handwriting is not good today on this thing. So remember, we talked about this yesterday, but you're going to have your y, and I'm going to move my c value over, so y plus 8, and then you're going to have plus a blank to complete the square. And then to complete the square, you want to factor out your value of a, so negative 3. Leave your x squared in there. You need a square to be able to complete, so x squared, and then you're going to have a minus 4x plus a blank. Okay, so here you want to make sure that you are being careful when you factor out that negative 3, so that when you go back in, negative 3x squared, and then negative 3 times negative 4 is a positive 12. So now when we complete the square, negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2, negative 2 squared is 4, but remember you didn't just add 4, you added 4 times negative 3, which is negative 12. So if we clean this up, we have y minus 4 when you combine like terms equals negative 3 times x minus 2 squared. So we want to get it into vertex form. So remember from yesterday, the last thing that you need to do is make sure the k is in the correct place, which at this point it's not. So we're going to add 4 to both sides. So you have y equals negative 3 times, oh sorry, no idea what that is. Oh my god, hold on. So negative 3 times x minus 2 squared plus 4. Okay, that's your final answer. For number 2, now we're going the opposite way. So now you're given vertex form, and you want to write the function in standard form. So whenever you're going from vertex to standard or intercept to standard, you're going to be multiplying out. With the vertex, you just need to say, okay, well, y equals 2, and you want to remember that that's x minus 1 times x minus 1 plus 3. So, want to take care of your parentheses first. We have y equals 2. When you double distribute, you get x squared minus 2x plus 1 plus 3. Distribute in your 2, so you have 2x squared minus 4x plus 2, and then plus 3 at the end. Now you can combine like terms one more time, and you have 2x squared minus 4x plus 5. That's your final answer. Okay. For number 3, we did this yesterday in that last problem. Given f of x in standard form, we want it in intercept form. Well, you guys, intercept form, remember, is also called factored form, so obviously you should factor. So we have y equals 2 times x squared plus 2x minus 15 when you take out a GCF. And then you have y equals 2 times x and x. Two numbers that multiply to be negative 15 and add to be 2 are positive 5 and negative 3. So x times x is x squared, negative 3 plus 5 is a positive 2, and then you get your negative 15. So that's your final answer. Okay. Now we're going the opposite way. So number 3 was standard to vertex. Standard to intercept. Now we're going intercept to standard. So just like this one over here in number 2, we multiplied out. Same thing here. So we have y equals negative 2. If you multiply out your x minus 3 and x plus 3, remember, you're going to get x squared. And that is the difference of squares because you're going to get a positive 3 and a negative 3. So your middle term is going to cancel. And then negative 3 plus 3 is negative 9. So then the last thing you need to do, there we go, is distribute your negative 2. So you get negative 2x squared plus 18. Sorry, you guys, my handwriting's so atrocious on this thing today. All right. So that's your final answer. You just don't have a b value, which is fine. All right, number 5, given f of x in standard form, write the function in vertex form. So you guys, this is a repeat of number 1. The only difference is you have an a value of 1/4. Not a big deal because your b value is 16, so it's going to work out nicely, and you're going to move your c value first. So I suggest you hit pause real quick and give this a shot, complete the square, take your time with it, and then hit play again, and I'll work it out, and you can see if you did it correctly. So we have y minus 9 when you move that c over, and then you're going to have plus a blank, equals, and then I'm going to take out that 1/4, and you're left with x squared. So here you're doing 16 divided by a 4th, so you're going to get negative 64x plus a blank. So I'm kind of running out of room there. But remember, when you multiply this back in, 1/4 times x squared is 1/4 x squared. 1/4 times negative 64 is negative 16. So that's what you want to make sure is going on. So now we're going to take that 64, we're going to divide it by 2, which is negative 32. And negative 32 squared is 1024. Sorry, I have no room. Now, we didn't just add 1024, we actually added 1024 times a 4th. So that's really 256. Okay. So when you combine like terms, you're going to end up with y plus 247 equals 1/4 times x minus, you always take half of that, 32 squared, and then you need your k in the correct spot, so y equals 1/4 times x minus 32 squared minus 247. So the numbers are kind of ugly, but it doesn't make it difficult, just means you have to take your time with it. That's all. Okay. All right, so moving on to the back. We have f of x equals negative 3 times x plus 2 times x minus 4. So that's in intercept form, and we want it in vertex form. So you could do a couple things here. You could put it in standard form and multiply it out, and then complete the square to get it into vertex form. On your quiz and on your test, we are going to ask you specifically to do it like this. When we are asking you from standard to vertex form, we're going to want to see that you have the skill set to complete the square. But here, I'm actually going to do a different way. I touched base with it with my classes yesterday. So we didn't do it, but if you haven't seen it, that's okay. Think about when you're in vertex form, you have y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So the two things that you need is your vertex, which is going to give you your h and your k, and then your a value. So if you need those two things, you need to say, okay, well, how can I find my vertex? I obviously already have my a value. So if we have our a value, already because it's right here. So a equals -3. Then I can just find my vertex. Well, in intercept form, to find your vertex, remember it's right in the middle of your x-intercepts. So I'm going to have x equals, my two x-intercepts are at -2 and +4. So I'm going to add those together and divide by 2. So -2 plus 4 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So then I have my y-coordinate, my vertex, which is -3 times, I have no idea where these blue lines are coming from, sorry guys, 1 plus 2 and 1 minus 4. So we end up with -3 times 3. If you need to write it out, go ahead and do that. And then times -3. So we end up with -3 times 3 is -9 times another -3 is a +27. So our answer is going to be y equals -3 for our a value times x minus 1, because that's the x coordinate of my vertex, squared plus 27. Okay, so you could, if you're given intercept form, that's the go around, so you don't need to go to standard form and then complete the square again. But make sure you know how to do both. For number 6, now we have all three forms, so this is very similar to the last question on the notes from yesterday. So again, if you want to hit pause, that'd be a good idea. We've already done this. I'm giving you the vertex and a point. It's exactly like yesterday. So obviously we're going to start with vertex form. You might want to pause the video, give it a shot, and then go from there. So I'm going to start with vertex form and do that first. Okay. So this is my x, this is my y, and then obviously my h and my k. So I have -56 equals a times -3 minus 1 squared plus 8. So if you move that 8 over, you end up at -46 equals -3 minus 1 is -4. -4 squared is 16, so 16a. Divide both sides by 16. I definitely did something wrong here. Hold on. That's going to be a really ugly A. Hold tight. Alright, good news, I'm just an idiot. Okay, so I can't add, subtract, multiply, or divide apparently, which is obviously an awesome trait in a math teacher. Okay, let's try not doing that incorrectly, and that's going to be -64. This is why you don't do these at 4 in the morning. Okay, -56 minus 8 will get you -64. When you divide by 16, you get -4 for your a value. So vertex form is y equals -4, should be a negative there, times x minus 1 squared. Oh, today's not my day, guys. Alright, let's try this. Square. I'm starting to lose it. Squared, I'm back, sorry guys. And then plus 8. Okay. Oh my god, you guys, I'm literally about to quit. Okay, so I'm just going to erase that and rewrite it. Sorry. Going down in history is my worst video ever, and for that I apologize. Y equals -4 times x minus 1 squared plus 8. There we go, it's kind of coherent. Okay, moving on. When I can do all three forms, I move from vertex to standard. So standard, I just need to multiply it out. So y equals -4 times x minus 1 times x minus 1 plus 8. So multiply out your parentheses and you get -4 times x squared minus 2x plus 1 plus 8. So y equals -4x squared plus 8x minus 4 plus 8. So your final form is y equals -4x squared plus 8x. You knew that was going to happen. Plus 8x Negative 4 plus 8 is a positive 4. Nice. It's a Friday yet. Alright. So, standard form is y equals negative 4x squared plus 8x plus 4. Last but not least, get near the end. You're almost done with this. We need to do factored form. So, in factored form or intercept form, remember they're interchangeable. There we go. I'm going to give myself a little bit more room here. We just need to factor it, so we're going to do that last here. So I'm going to take this and say, okay, well, y equals negative 4 times x squared minus 2x minus 1 when you take out a GCF. Always double check your work. So your intercept form is y equals negative 4. And then when you factor that out, we get x and x. And then we need minus 1 and minus 1, I think. Oh, guys, I did something wrong here. Shocker. Who's surprised right now? Here we go. Forgot I wanted to do this with you guys. Okay. Sorry, I hope you're using a pencil. If you look, this is x times x, which is x squared. This is negative 1x minus 1x, which is negative 2x. Negative 1 times negative 1 is a positive 1. So that's a problem. That tells me this isn't factorable. So that doesn't mean there isn't a factored form. That means I'm going to have to use one of my other methods in order to find out what those x-intercepts are. So I'm going to just get rid of this. Okay. And I'm actually going to get rid of this too, just because I know it doesn't work. And say, okay, there's going to probably be x-intercepts, right? They could be imaginary, and then there wouldn't be. But I talked about this at the beginning of the unit. Just because they aren't pretty doesn't mean that x-intercepts don't exist. So I'm going to use one of my other methods to find them. Factoring doesn't work, so we're going to move on. And I'm going to use, in this case, I'm going to use completing the square. So I'm going to find those x-intercepts by setting y equal to 0. So I have 0 equals negative 4x squared plus 8x plus 4. I'm going to bring my 4 over, so I have negative 4, and then plus a blank equals negative 4 times x squared minus 2x plus a blank. So negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. I didn't just add 1, I added 1 times negative 4, which is negative 4. So you end up with negative 8 equals negative 4 times x minus 1 squared. Divide both sides by negative 4 and you get 2 equals x minus 1 squared. Okay, when you square root both sides, you end up with plus or minus the square root of 2 equals x minus 1. So you end up with x values of 1 plus or minus the square root of 2 equals x. So those are x-intercepts. They're just decimals and they're ugly, but it's still an x-intercept. So you guys, this is how you're going to write this. You have y equals negative 4 stays the same. That's still your a value. Normally, if your x-intercepts are like 4 and 7, you would do x minus 4 and x minus 7, right? Here, you're going to do x minus 1 plus the square root of 2. That's one of your x-intercepts. And x minus 1 minus the square root of 2. So it's ugly, but it's okay. And we want to see that factored form written out so that you still show us, hey, I know they're x-intercepts. They're just really ugly. If you put those in your calculator, you're going to get a decimal. One of them ends up being 2.42, and the other one ends up being negative 4.2. So it's okay. It's just ugly. Does it happen a ton? No. But if it does happen, that's how you approach it. Okay, and so that happened to me because I noticed, hey, this isn't factoring, and then I said to myself, oh, I must have done something wrong. When I went back and checked my work, I realized I didn't do anything wrong, so then I went through and used a different method to find x-intercepts. Doesn't happen a ton just because of the nature of what we're doing. However, we want you guys to be aware that it's possible because not everything's always pretty. All right, for number 7, we have a quadratic function that goes through points that are obviously x-intercepts, and we want to write all 3 forms of the function. So I'm going to start an intercept form here. So I have my x and my y, and then obviously my p and my q. So 160 equals a times 3 minus a negative 5 times 3 minus a negative 1. So 160 equals a times 8 times 4. So you end up with 160 equals 32a when you multiply that all out. When you divide by 32, you get 5. So your intercept form is y equals 5 times x minus negative 5, so x plus 5, and then x minus negative 1, so x plus 1. Moving on, if I have intercept form, I'm going to go to standard form next and do that. So I can just multiply out, so y equals 5. If I multiply out my parentheses from down there, x times x is x squared. 1 plus 5 gets me 6x, and then 5 times 1 is a positive 5. So distribute your 5 and you get 5x squared plus 30x plus 25. So that's your standard form. And then last but not least, for your vertex form, we're going to complete the square just to practice that a little bit more. So I'm going to leave my y intact, so y minus 25, and then we'll have plus a blank equals 5 times x squared plus 6x plus a blank. Okay. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. We didn't add 9. We added 9 times 5, which is 45. So you end up with y plus 20 equals 5. Oh, guys. Oh, man. Times x plus 3 squared, and then move your k over so it's in the right spot. So you have y equals 5 times x plus 3 squared minus 20. And I'm finally done. Sorry, this could have been 5 minutes longer if my computer wasn't a piece of crap. Alright, so that's the last one I did. Okay, so you should be able to move between any forms. We should be able to give you any form and give you a different form of it, and you should be able to figure out how to go between those as you work through your homework tonight. Okay. Your homework tonight is worksheet number 4, so once you have your notes completed, go ahead and show them to the sub, and then you can start working on that. Make sure to check your answers online, because I wasn't able to fit them, I don't believe, on the back. Okay.